Hello, welcome to Inspire in Half an Hour podcast. My name is Ruth Aisi, and I'm really excited today to be talking to Chulu Chansa, who's in Zambia. Chulu is going to talk to us about writing her first novel and how she got it to a publisher.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. So how did I get started with my first novel? I have loved books for such a long time, ever since I was a child. And I always knew I wanted to write a book. And it's one of those things I kept saying, I will do it, and then just haven't gotten around to doing it. So last year I turned 40 and I said, ma'am, if you don't do it now, I'm not going to get it done. So I said, this year I must get it done. Fortunately, I was able to go to a writing retreat at the beginning of the year. It was a feminist writing retreat, and I learned so much there. And from our mentors and just the encouragement from them, I happened to get back home and say, okay, let me try and get into traditional publishing. Fortunately, my manuscript was accepted, and that is how I have been on a journey this year of writing my first novel.
Were you surprised when you say it was accepted? Had you actually finished your manuscript at that point when it was accepted, or had you just sent in a sample?
Yeah, that was a funny story. So, the deadline was really, really short because, like I said, I went for this retreat in January, and then I did some research, found some of the publishers that I'm really interested in, really respect their work. And one of my top choices, their deadline was coming up really quickly, I think in March. I just put a proposal together in the hope that I would have enough time, because they'll give you a time frame of when they'll get back to you and so on. So I said, okay, I've got at least 12 weeks to finish this manuscript. And I sent in the proposal, and within a couple of hours, they said, "Oh, we want to see the full manuscript." I said, "What manuscript?" And I started panicking. And they said, "No, no, no, be calm. You've got the outline, you've got
Mm,
everything, so just ask for an extension." So that's what I did.
mm.
And I ended up writing the full manuscript in 30 days.
Wow, that is a lot. I mean, how did you discipline yourself to write it in 30 days? I mean, was it like writing all day long?
Basically.
Okay.
So one of the things that we learned at the writing retreat was to have a writing routine,
Mm,
something that will allow your body and your mind to know that it's time to be creative, it's time to sit down and get grounded. And that's different things for different people.
mm.
For me, I like to take a walk, I like to have a shower and just, it's just like I'm washing away the rest of the day
Yes.
and then I can get the writing done. But I must say it was very intensive just because
Mm.
of the deadline.
Like, yes.
I gave myself a goal of, I think it was 3,000 words per day.
Yes.
Um, and then, yeah, and then because I had the outline,
Mm.
it was very easy to follow and just say, okay, this is where we're going from here. This is where we're going from
Mm.
here. And yeah, but I really, well, I'll say this. Technically, I wrote the book in less days, and
Mm.
then I sent it out so that people could read it, give me feedback, and then worked on the feedback before sending it into the publisher. Yeah.
Just wow. And then what happened after that? How long was it before you got accepted by the publisher?
It could have been about a month. I think it
Okay.
took about a month to get feedback from them. So they get the full manuscript and then decide whether it's something they would want to proceed with. And yeah, so after about a month, they contacted me and said, "Hey, we would like you to join our publishing family. And I was like,
Well, big congratulations. I mean, that's amazing to have that, to achieve that on your first, sort of pitch. I mean, that is really, very encouraging. Do you tell us what the novel is about?
sure. So it follows, it's a romantic, oh, I don't want to say thriller. I don't know. I think you
Oh,
would
okay.
decide. But anyway, so you have it's a romance between a young man who is blind. He's
Mm,
just been blind for 3 years, so he's navigating what life is like with that kind of disability. And
yes.
then you have a young photographer who's on the run. So
Oh,
the worlds collide in
yes,
Lusaka, which is the capital city of Zambia,
yes.
and it kind of revolves mostly around Lusaka, but then it also goes to the east of the country, which is in Chipata, and then a little bit of the south. But basically, it's mostly around Lusaka.
I mean, that's fascinating. That really, I mean, it's so nice as well that you are writing about your own country, doing a novel that's based in Zambia. And yeah, it's getting published because I would imagine that it's quite, I don't know, I'm always struck by it's quite difficult for African writers to get noticed and published. And there's so much talent there, but the opportunity isn't there. Did you want to comment on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what I have discovered in, especially this year, is that, like you said, there's so much talent out
Mm,
there. But what most authors have to do right now is just to be indie authors.
mm,
And I think our publishing industry in Africa is still quite young.
mm.
Um, and I would also say, for example, you have the main bookstores, but
Yes.
then they are only bringing in books which are, authors from the West, authors from
Mm.
other continents, and there's just not enough representation of our own stories,
Sorry.
our
Yes.
own African stories. And it's quite sad. I mean, I remember you and I met when we were in
Mm.
South Africa, and I
Yes.
remember when I was flying out, I went straight at the airport. I went straight to the bookstore and I said, "Oh, can you please show me the African section
Yes.
where the African authors, right?" And they literally had two books,
Oh
two
no.
fiction, and these books are not even written in this century, Ruth.
Oh no. Oh,
I was like, no, no,
yeah.
this is not right. There's
Yeah.
so many talented people, authors out there that we need to know more about. We need to be reading their books.
Exactly. Gosh, no, that is quite shocking. I mean, well, I'm hoping that your book will get distributed widely. I mean, where's your publishing house based? The one that's publishing your book.
Publishing house is based in Nigeria.
Mm-hmm.
So they have a very strong base in Nigeria. They also have relationships and partnerships with specific other countries. I believe is some countries in East Africa and South
Mm.
Africa. And of course, because I'm in Zambia, I'm
Mm.
gonna find a way to make a relationship here
Yes, no.
and get it done here. So yeah, I think it's just one of those things that the more of us that get to do this, I think the more the doors begin to open of how we can distribute our books.
Mm.
Yeah.
You were saying the book as well, you sort of was inspired by, from what I remember our discussions before, you were saying it was inspired by a real person. Can you tell us a little
Mhm.
bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a friend. He's a coach, like a physical trainer,
Mm,
and he literally a young man, he was about, I'd say he was, yeah, I think he was about 30.
mm,
And he literally went to bed one day, and the next day when he woke up, he couldn't see in both
Mm.
his eyes.
Gosh.
So,
Yeah.
they've done the
Mm.
investigations and found it was because of glaucoma. Glaucoma is
Mm.
something that's actually quite common across
Mm.
the world. And I think when it comes to our eyes, we're not as diligent
Mm.
about going to
Mm.
check on them, right? We go to the dentist,
This,
we will
yes.
go to our physicals,
Mm.
but like actually, being
Mm.
going checking our eyes, I think that's something that we don't necessarily do.
Mm.
So I just say, I'd encourage people that, as the way you brush
Mm.
your teeth is as important. Like go and
Mm.
get your eyes
It's
checked as
checked.
well.
Yeah.
But he's a brilliant young man.
Mm.
Even though he lost both his sight, like I said, he's a physical coach, and
Yes.
he's trained to teach people how to do, I think, 7 different sports and things like that.
Wow.
So he's like a very active person,
Mm.
and right now he is still coaching. So he
Mm.
coaches via like online.
Mm.
um, he also has a foundation that
Mm.
brings awareness about glaucoma, and
Mm.
also the challenges of being having a visual disability,
Mm.
especially in a country like Zambia.
Mm.
Our country is not built
Mm.
for people with disabilities. It's quite terrible.
Yes.
And then he's also a motivational speaker. So,
Mm.
I think especially when you are an adult and you experience something so traumatic, some people don't necessarily are not necessarily able to pick themselves up and keep going.
No.
They
Mm.
get into depression and a
Yes.
funk.
Yeah.
But he is somebody, when
Mm.
you meet him, he's just full of life, full of joy, and
Mm.
so
Mm.
optimistic and hopeful about life. Yeah. So his name is Sydney Kamanga.
Oh, wow. That is amazing. And I assume that he knows about the story and maybe, yeah?
Yeah, he does. So actually when he was starting his foundation, one
Mm.
thing I said to him is that, you know, something that really has an impact on people is stories.
Yes.
Like for you to educate people, it's so much easier when you do it through a story.
Of
So I
course.
had
Yes.
asked, can I write a story that is loosely based around your life?
Mm.
And he agreed. Now that was, I think, maybe about a year and a half ago or
Go.
something like
Wow.
that. So when I now committed to say
Mm.
I'm going to do the story, we've had long
Mm.
conversations, lots of chats about what his
Mm.
experience is like. But I
Mm.
told him when I started writing, I told him, okay, I'm doing it, I'm
Mm.
writing. So
Mm.
he helped me a lot
Oh,
with
wow.
really figuring out the male main character
Character.
and his experience, and making it more authentic and not necessarily
Yes.
something I just kind of, imagine of what his experience would be like.
Oh, I'm really looking forward to reading the book. Do you have any idea? It's now in the editing process, is it? With the
Yeah.
publishers and their, yeah. Do you have any idea when we can actually see it in the bookshops?
So it's going to be either quarter 2 or quarter 3 next year,
Y-
2026.
Okay,
Um, and yeah, so I
that's
think that's
exciting.
one of like the like, I don't know if it's like a drawback of like
Mm.
traditional publishing because it takes quite some time. You'd be like, oh, but I wrote this book like maybe a year
Yeah,
ago and it didn't.
I know.
Um, versus, if you're a self-publisher,
Yes,
you're just like, I've
yeah.
written it, sent it out.
Yes.
But I'm enjoying the process so
Says,
far, with
yes,
the editing, with just getting people's feedback, hearing
yes,
back, because I have a series of beta readers
yes,
who read the manuscript. So getting their feedback was such a joy.
yes.
Um, and yeah, it's just a wonderful experience in total.
Yeah, so it's interesting that you say that you're enjoying the experience because I think some people would be quite scared of going on for so long and so many people having their, sort of say in the story that you must feel quite sort of possessive about, but you're not finding
Yeah.
it difficult to, sort of accept the changes.
It is. There are some things which are difficult. I remember when I got the first edit, we're
Yes.
on the second, and I read it and I was just like, but our mentors, um, our mentors had warned us that,
Yeah.
when it comes to
Yeah.
editing,
Yes.
um, you need to be prepared that there's
Mm.
going to be a lot that will be taken away. The things
Yes.
you think are important, and they'll be like,
Yes.
well, it doesn't really carry the story forward. You know what
Mm.
I mean? Um, so and I remember, I think I started with, I honestly, I can't even say how
Mm.
many characters, right? And the number of characters that I say I killed them off,
Oh
but not necessarily
no.
by killing them in the book, but they're just
Yes.
no longer in the
In the
manuscript. So many,
Oh
so many.
really? Oh
Yeah.
wow.
And
Gosh.
but it's just one of those things you'd be like, okay,
Yeah.
moving on, just keep it going.
Yeah. Lost her, lost him. Okay. But that's really interesting. So what now? Is it obviously you're doing the editing, but are you on another project straight away, or are you actually going to wait and see this book through before you start thinking about doing something else
Um,
creative in that way?
Yeah. So funny enough, I have ideas coming to me all the
Mm,
time.
mm.
It's like a distraction. It's quite
Yes.
interesting, right? So what I do with the ideas is I write them out,
Mm.
um, and I'm basically keeping them for a time when I'll be much more clearer.
Yes.
I think
So you
once
write it
um,
out in terms of the outline. Is that what you mean when you say you write it out?
yeah, well, there's some ideas that are more um so I'd say, for example, I'd have like a concept like,
Mm.
oh, it'd be interesting to write about this and this from this and this point of view, right?
Yes,
So I'll
yes.
write that idea down. And then there are
Ah,
others where I can see the whole plot, or like the
okay.
majority of the plot. So then I'll write that all out.
Mm.
But I'm not touching it in terms of actually flushing it out at the
Yes,
moment.
yes,
So
yes,
I'm waiting until I know that the editing process is done. And then
yes.
we're focusing on things like, the cover and
And
things like
yes,
that for
yes.
me to then come back to these stories. And I think what will be interesting is now
Mm.
choosing which story to go with.
Next.
Because like I said, there's so many. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, can you just stop?
Are they mostly inspired by real people or not necessarily?
Yeah, they are inspired by real people. Um, uh, I don't know. There's sometimes when it's,
Mm.
when you hear a certain, like you hear maybe something on the news,
Yes.
and then for me, then my mind wanders and says,
Mm.
oh, I wonder if it was from this
Mm.
perspective,
Mm.
what would that person do?
Do
You
yes,
know?
yes,
Um,
yes.
so it's like different things. It's
That yeah.
people's actions. It's hearing some sort of news item. It's having
Mm.
a conversation
Shit.
with somebody
Mm.
and thinking, oh wow, I think it would be great
Mm.
to sort of expand on this idea.
Dear. Yes.
Yeah, so it's different things.
Okay. That sounds like a good way forward. I mean, it sort of leads into, my sort of final question, which was, what advice would you give to someone that is, starting out and wanting to write their first novel?
So one of the things that has also helped me incredibly is reading. I remember having a
Mm.
conversation with some friends, their publishers, in Zimbabwe last year, and I said, "Oh, I want to write a book." And
Mm.
they said, "Okay, we've got two questions. Why do you want to write the book? And then, do you read?"
Mm.
So a whole conversation about that, and I took that away from me. I really took it to heart.
Yes.
So this year I gave myself a goal that I want to read 100 books. So
Wow.
far, I'm on 74 books. So I have 3 months to get through 30 more books.
You're
But
a quick reader. I mean, you're a very quick reader. You are quick, huh? You know how to, yeah, wow.
yeah,
That's
I
impressive.
do. And I remember I read, I think I had written about 30, I had read about 30 books and then I wrote the manuscript. And then
Wow.
afterwards, I read another set of books. And I remember when it came time to do the editing,
Mm.
I had changed. I
Oh,
had grown.
really? Ah. Mm.
You know, when you
Mm.
read people's books, you see
Mm.
different styles.
Yes.
You see I guess different calibers, right? You
Yes.
can notice
Yes.
calibers right away, and you notice what makes one book stand out above another. How
Yes.
does the story come together? How do
Mm.
they bring the plot in, alive in people's minds and whatnot?
Mm.
So when I was doing the editing, I
Mm.
realized that I had changed because I had
Red.
read. And I know
Mm.
one of the fears would be, well, if I read, am I going to just be plagiarizing or kind of
Mm.
stealing people's styles or things like that? But I don't think so. I don't
No.
think so. I
Mm.
think you have a distinct voice,
Yes.
and also your characters have a distinct voice, and it is your job to um, speak for them. So it's not
Mm.
necessarily that you're taking away too much from other people, but you do learn a lot. So I'd
Mm.
say if you're somebody that's aspiring to write,
Mm.
read as well. Read a lot.
Yes. That's very good advice. It's true. No, definitely. I mean, do you find that you read the same sort of genre, or are you actually reading, are you in, so it's like romantic thrillers and
Yeah.
mm,
So, I mean, when I decided that I
mm,
wanted to write a book, I knew immediately that
mm,
I wanted to write about love.
mm.
Um, and not necessarily romance, but
No.
specifically love.
Okay.
So this could be relationships with,
Mm.
your parents. It can be with
Yes.
your coworkers. So, different formats of love.
Yes.
So I've been reading a lot of romance, and then
Yes.
there are some other books which come along, which I
Mm,
do read.
mm.
I mean, right now I've read, I think I'd say about 80% of the books that I've read have been romance and fiction, right? I
Yes.
have read some nonfiction here and there.
Mm,
I have read some other genres,
mm,
but for the most part, it's been romance.
mm.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. And are they mostly set in Africa or are they all around the
Mhm.
world? Is that?
So my goal really is
Mm.
has been to read more African authors,
Yes.
um, because it's very easy for us to say, well, there are no African authors. Well, there are not a lot of African
Yes.
authors, right? Because we don't find them in the bookstores.
Yes.
But that's not true.
No.
Like I mentioned before, you have a lot of authors that are indie authors, meaning that
Yes.
their distribution and their marketing techniques are very different,
Mm.
right? And you
Yes.
have to go out there and look for them. So, I mean, if you're somebody into books, then you know about Book Talk, you know about Bookstagram. And when
Mm.
you get on platforms like that, then you begin to follow people and
Mm.
then you see recommendations. Then you're like, oh,
Mm.
okay, let me go
Yeah.
check out this book. Let me go,
Mm.
So when you become intentional and
Mm.
deliberate about finding African authors, you will be so delightfully surprised about
Mm.
how many they are out there. And the stories are incredible. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah.
Oh my
Wow.
goodness.
Wow. Is there any, what's one of the ones you've read recently? I won't ask for your favorite because that must be very difficult when you've read so many.
I'll
What's
tell
so,
you my last one.
yeah.
Um, The last book I read is
Mm.
actually by a Zambian author,
Mm.
and it's called actually have it here.
Oh,
Even If the Stars Should Fall by
uh-huh.
Natasha Omokodi.
Oh,
Brilliant. It
oh,
is a
really?
brilliant book. Um,
Okay, I'll get
so
that. Yeah, I haven't read it, but definitely I'll be getting that.
yeah, so it is
Mm.
a historical fiction
Mm.
that is based in Zambia around 1950 through
Oh,
to 1969.
so
Now,
the
if you know
independence.
Zambian
Yeah. Mm.
history, independence,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yes.
So you have this beautiful couple. They just get married, and in 1950, right?
Yes.
And both of them want freedom for Zambia,
Yeah.
and they
Yes.
go about it different ways, even though they're married. So the
Ah.
husband, Luca, he becomes a freedom fighter, and the wife, Angie, she seeks freedom through the Lumpa Church. I'm not too sure whether you know about the Lumpa Church.
I don't know about
Um,
the Lumpa Church.
mm, yeah, so I mean, how much did I go into the history? Okay,
Okay.
so but I would say this: when we got
Mm.
independence as the
Yes.
Zambia, that was in 1964.
Yes.
So this is historical fact. When we got independence in
Mm.
1964, in that same year, there was also a unaliving of 700, at least 700 people who belonged to the Lumpa Church
Uh-huh.
and were deemed a threat to the new government at the
Uh-huh.
time.
Hmm.
Yeah. So this book talks about that
That,
um,
oh, sort
that
of collision.
collision, that intersection of, everybody's trying to fight for independence, for
Mm.
freedom, for our people, and how people went
Mm.
about it differently. It's a brilliant. So I'm going to reference the retreat that I went to. You can see how much it has influenced me.
Yes.
Um, so our mentors told us, writers write.
Mm.
So I think it's so important for us to know that, you know, for I think okay, I'll tell you one way that I got
Yes.
started because like I said, I've been struggling with this for a long
On
time.
time. Mm-hmm.
I told myself, I give you permission to write bad
Mm.
because I think there was
Ah.
something that was holding me back.
Mm.
There's like
Yes.
perfectionism,
Yes.
there is
Yes.
self-doubt and all of these different things that come to you.
Yes.
Um, but when I gave myself permission to write badly and just
Mm.
write anyway, then it just started flowing. And I think that's why I'm kind of enjoying the editing process
Yes.
because you can write something great, and it
Mm.
might not be great, but when you go back to it and you keep combing through it, that's when you're now going to really pull out the
Mm.
story as you want to tell it, and you
Mm.
you get that perspective, you get to walk away from the project, come back and say, okay, my goal for this story is to get this message across. Is this coming across? you know
Mm.
so the editing process is actually where I feel like the real writing
Mm.
begins.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
writers write, and
Yes.
just give yourself permission to write
Mm.
badly. It's
Mm.
okay because you're going to come back and edit anyway.
I think that's really good advice. I mean, that is basically, I think you've hit the nail on the head when you say it's like a passion of wanting to tell a story rather than wanting to write so grammatically and correctly. But it's that passion in you to tell this story that's burning inside you. And I can see that that's what you had. And yeah, it's really inspirational to talk to you and to hear your advice and to hear your journey. And yeah, I'm just so impressed by how you managed to pull it all off. And so, and with a lot of passion, and we can learn a lot about that. And I feel very inspired. I sort of struggle to to get my creative projects off the ground, and your advice, I think, has meant a lot to me, and it will mean a lot to other aspiring writers. So, thank you so much.